The twin suns of GalacticPrime hung low over the horizon, casting long orange shadows across the jagged cliffs. The human colony ship, Aurora Dawn, glided smoothly over the rocky terrain, its engines humming softly. From the cockpit, Jaren Malik peered through the reinforced glass, scanning the landscape for signs of life. This was a planet marked as uninhabited in the official maps, yet its strange terrain suggested otherwise. Jaren was a scout, trained for situations just like this. He had landed on countless worlds, mapped alien terrain, and returned with detailed reports for the colony's council. But GalacticPrime felt different. The air had a metallic tang, the ground hummed faintly, and a low, whispering wind seemed almost alive. "Something's off," Jaren muttered to himself, gripping the control stick tighter. He guided the Aurora Dawn down into a valley surrounded by towering cliffs. There the land opened into a dense forest of twisted, crystalline trees. Light refracted through the crystalline branches, scattering into a kaleidoscope of colors. Strange creatures flitted between the trunks, barely visible in the shimmering glow. Jaren set the ship down carefully, dust kicking up around the landing pad. His sensors registered life forms in the forest, far more advanced than any typical fauna. He took a deep breath, adjusted his utility belt, and stepped onto the alien soil. The moment his boots touched the ground, the air seemed to thrum with energy, like the planet itself was aware of his presence. "Okay, Jaren," he whispered, checking his scanner. "Let's see what you're hiding." He moved cautiously through the forest, every sound amplified. The crystalline leaves tinkled like glass when the wind brushed them. Strange, luminescent insects hovered near his head, giving off a soft green glow. Despite the beauty, there was a feeling of being watched. Jaren's hand hovered over his sidearm as he advanced. Suddenly, a movement caught his eye. 3 figures dropped silently from the treetops, landing in front of him. They were women, tall, lithe, and covered in armor that shimmered like liquid metal. Their helmets reflected the forest's colors, making it hard to read their expressions, yet their stance radiated power. Jaren froze. He had trained for hostile encounters, but the precision and silence of their landing were almost unnerving. They formed a triangle around him, weapons ready, energy blades gleaming faintly in the twilight. "You are not welcome here," said the tallest one, her voice calm but commanding. "State your purpose, human." I'm a scout," Jaren said carefully. "I come in peace, I mean no harm." The women exchanged a glance. The one on the left shifted slightly, her hand brushing the edge of her weapon. "Peace must be proven, not claimed," she said. The third warrior, standing slightly behind the others, stepped forward. "If you wish to leave this forest alive, you must face us tonight." Jaren's heart skipped a beat. "Face you? What does that mean?" "You will understand when darkness falls," the leader replied. "Survive until dawn and you may earn our trust. Fail, and this forest will consume you." The words carried a weight that froze Jaren in place. He had faced alien predators, extreme storms, and rogue AI, but this was different. These warriors were intelligent, disciplined, and fully aware of every possible threat. He could feel their minds like a pressure against his own. Jaren took a cautious step back. "I can try to prove myself, but I need guidance. I don't know this forest." The leader tilted her head slightly. "We will guide you, but only when necessary. Tonight you will rely on your instincts, show courage, wit, and strength, or perish." The warriors moved aside just enough for him to follow. Their footsteps were silent, leaving no trace on the glittering forest floor. Jaren followed carefully, his senses alert. Every rustle of leaves, every shimmer of light, felt like a potential threat. As they walked deeper into the forest, the 3 women spoke little, letting silence dominate. Occasionally, one would signal with a hand gesture, and Jaren would follow. Slowly, he began to notice the details of the forest, the way certain plants bent away as if sensing movement, the faint hum that ran through the crystalline trunks, the eyes that seemed to watch from the shadows. Hours passed. The sun dipped below the horizon and the forest changed. The shimmering colors dimmed, replaced by ghostly blues and purples. Shadows stretched long and twisted, and the wind carried strange whispering tones that made Jaren's skin crawl. We'll rest here, the leader said finally, stopping at a small clearing near a crystalline waterfall. The water glowed softly, illuminating the area. But do not lower your guard. This night will test you. Jaren nodded. What kind of test? The warrior on the left smiled faintly, though her eyes remained sharp. You will see soon enough. Trust yourself, and do not underestimate us or this forest. As they spoke, the forest seemed to shift. Shapes moved just beyond the edge of the clearing, and the glow of the water cast strange shadows that seemed alive. Jaren's pulse quickened. He crouched near the waterfall, scanning the area. Every instinct screamed that danger was near. Night fell fully, and the forest became a living labyrinth. Strange creatures with glowing eyes prowled just out of sight. The wind carried scents that made Jaren's stomach churn, and the ground beneath his feet hummed like it was alive. The warrior sisters stood silently around him, alert to every movement. Hours passed. He tried to focus, remembering the training from his colony days. Observe, adapt, survive. He spotted subtle trails, heard the faintest movements, and learned to move without drawing attention. Every second was a lesson in survival, every breath a test of patience and courage. At one point, a shadow darted from the trees, a creature with claws and scales glinting under the dim light. Jaren froze, remembering the sister's words. Trust your instincts. He held his breath, studied the creature, then slowly moved to flank it. When it lunged, he sidestepped and used a fallen branch to guide it away. The sisters watched silently, their eyes unreadable. By dawn, exhaustion weighed on him, but he had survived the first night. The sisters approached, their armor catching the first light of the sun. You have survived, the leader said. Few humans would last one night. Here, you have potential. Do not mistake this for friendship. Your trials have just begun. Jaren exhaled, relief and exhaustion mixing in his chest. Thank you, I think. The sisters only nodded and disappeared into the forest, leaving him with a new understanding. GalacticPrime was alive in ways he had never imagined, and he would need every ounce of courage and skill to survive. As he watched the forest shimmer in the morning light, Jaren realized one thing clearly. The warrior sisters were not his enemies, but the gatekeepers of a civilization, and perhaps the key to humanity's survival in this strange corner of the galaxy. And somewhere deep in the forest, he knew the real challenges had only just begun. The morning sun bathed the crystalline forest in soft gold, scattering reflections across the jagged branches. Jaren Malik rubbed the sleep from his eyes, muscles aching from the first night's exhaustion. Every nerve in his body still hummed, with the tension of survival. The warrior sisters were nowhere to be seen, but their presence lingered in the air, a silent warning that his trials were far from over. Jaren stood slowly, scanning the forest. The alien trees glowed faintly as if responding to his thoughts. Every movement felt exaggerated, every rustle of leaves seemed amplified. He checked his scanner, but the readings were puzzling. Hundreds of life forms, some moving too fast to detect clearly, and the energy signature of the sisters nowhere nearby. Great, he muttered, brushing dust from his uniform. They left, me alone, but not really. He took a cautious step forward, navigating the twisting crystal trunks. The first test had been about endurance and awareness, but now he could feel the forest itself pressing toward him, challenging his intellect and strategy. The ground hummed beneath his boots, and strange phosphorescent vines curled along the paths as though alive. Jaren's instincts told him to move slowly, yet every second counted in this place. Suddenly the sound of water rushing caught his attention. He turned a corner and found a narrow gorge with a rushing river of luminescent blue liquid. Across the river was a set of jagged cliffs leading to higher ground. Somewhere beyond he could sense movement, shapes flitting among the crystal trees. The sisters' trail was faint, but visible if he paid close attention. "Looks like another test," he said, taking a deep breath. "Cross the gorge, and survive whatever's on the other side." Jaren examined the river. Its surface shimmered like liquid glass, but the readings on his scanner suggested high energy currents beneath. Any misstep would mean being swept away into the unknown. He searched for a path, noticing faint crystal formations jutting out of the river, forming a natural bridge. Timing would be critical. He leapt from one crystal stone to the next, balancing carefully as the currents surged below. Midway, one of the stones tilted unexpectedly. Jaren froze, heart pounding. He adjusted his stance, pushing his weight to the center, and jumped to the next stone. Behind him a low growl echoed, a creature of shadow and light, half seen but fully threatening. The warrior sisters appeared on the cliff above, watching silently. They did not intervene, but their eyes followed his every movement. The message was clear. He could survive, but only if he trusted his instincts and thought fast. Jaren reached the other side, collapsing onto the soft, moss-like ground. His chest heaved as he looked back at the river. He had made it, but he knew the forest would not stop testing him. "All right," he muttered, standing again. "Bring it on." The sisters guided him deeper into the forest, though still in silence. The next challenge was unlike the first. The forest opened into a vast clearing, filled with massive stone pillars arranged in a pattern that seemed both deliberate and chaotic. Strange glyphs glowed faintly on the stones. Jaren had seen many alien languages in his career, but these symbols radiated intelligence, an unspoken puzzle waiting to be solved. "Looks like a mental challenge," he said. "They're testing more than my muscles." As he approached the nearest pillar, the glyphs shifted, forming patterns that pulsed like a heartbeat. Jaren crouched, examining the arrangement. Each symbol seemed connected to another, creating a sequence. He realized the pillars were a logic puzzle. Step on them in the correct order to unlock the path forward. One mistake could trigger a trap. His mind raced. He tried different combinations, observing subtle clues in the glowing patterns. After several attempts, he heard a soft chime as the first sequence aligned. A section of the forest floor shifted, revealing a safe path forward. He exhaled, realizing that the sisters' challenges were not just about strength or survival. They were about strategy, observation, and courage. As he moved along the new path, the forest began to darken. A storm of violet lightning swept through the crystalline trees, sending sparks dancing across the branches. Strange creatures emerged from the shadows, moving with speed and precision. Jaren knew he had to act fast. He grabbed a fallen branch and held it like a staff, ready to defend himself. The creatures were not large, but their claws glinted and eyes burned with intelligence. Jaren dodged and parried, each movement precise. He relied on his training and the instincts sharpened by the first night. Slowly, he pushed the creatures back, using the environment to his advantage, leading them into narrow passages, causing them to stumble over glowing vines. The sisters watched from a distance, their silence a form of judgment. Finally, as the last creature retreated into the shadows, the sisters approached. "You are learning quickly," the leader said, her voice calm but edged with approval. "Few humans would adapt to the forest's challenges so efficiently." Jaren wiped sweat from his brow. "It's hard, but I'm learning. Your forest, it's alive in a way I've never seen before." The sister on the left nodded. "It is more than alive. It is aware. It tests all who enter, not to destroy but to teach. Only the strong, clever, and brave may walk its paths and survive its trials." Jaren frowned. "And these trials? They're not just for me, are they?" "No," the leader said. "They are for anyone who wishes to understand us. You must prove yourself to survive. You must prove yourself to belong. Strength alone is not enough. Strategy, courage, and respect for life are required." As they spoke, Jaren began to understand the depth of their culture. These warrior sisters were not merely fighters. They were guardians of the planet, protectors of a civilization that valued intelligence, discipline, and unity. The forest was their proving ground, a living classroom where only the worthy learned its lessons. By late afternoon, they reached a plateau overlooking a valley filled with massive floating crystal formations. A river of molten light ran through the valley, twisting and turning in ways that seemed to defy gravity. The sisters gestured for him to observe. "This will be your next trial," the leader said. "You must cross the valley, navigate the floating formations, and reach the other side before nightfall. The forest will not wait for hesitation. It will respond to weakness." Jaren studied the valley, feeling a mixture of awe and fear. The formations shifted subtly, and the air seemed to hum with energy. He could sense the challenge would require every skill he had: balance, observation, timing, and courage. One wrong step could mean a fall into the glowing river below. He began, his crossing cautiously, jumping from formation to formation. The sisters remained behind, observing silently. Each leap tested his balance. Each landing required precision. At one point, a floating crystal tilted unexpectedly, and he almost lost his footing. He caught himself just in time, heart pounding, and pressed on. Halfway across, he noticed a pattern in the floating formations, a rhythm in their movement. By paying attention to the subtle shifts, he began to anticipate the next step, moving faster and with greater confidence. The lessons of the first night and the logic puzzle pillars guided him. He realized that every challenge the sisters had given him prepared him for this moment. Finally, he reached the far side, collapsing onto solid ground. The sisters approached, their faces hidden behind reflective helmets, but their body language conveyed approval. "You have learned," the leader said, "not only to survive but to observe, to adapt, and to understand. These qualities will carry you through what comes next." Jaren smiled faintly, exhaustion and pride mingling. I think I'm starting to understand. The forest isn't just dangerous, it's teaching me." The sister on the right nodded. "Exactly. Strength alone cannot carry you. Knowledge, observation, and courage are as vital as muscle. Remember this, human. The night ahead will test all these lessons. Do not underestimate what comes next." As the sun dipped toward the horizon, casting long shadows over the valley, Jaren realized that his journey had only just begun. The forest was alive, the sisters were vigilant, and the challenges ahead would demand everything he had, and more. For the first time, he felt a connection to something larger than himself. A civilization, a world, and a code of honor that was alien yet compelling. He had survived the first trials, but the true test was still to come. And he knew, deep in his heart, that he would need every lesson, every skill, and every ounce of courage to face it. The sun had dipped below the jagged horizon, leaving GalacticPrime bathed in a dim violet glow. Shadows stretched across the crystalline forest, twisting and flickering like living things. Jaren Malik crouched behind a large crystal outcrop, scanning the alien landscape. The first trials had tested his strength and mind, but now a darker challenge awaited: the night itself. The warrior sisters appeared silently at the edges of the clearing, their armor glinting faintly in the dim light. They did not speak. Instead, they gestured for Jaren to follow. Every step he took made him feel smaller in the vastness of the forest, yet he knew hesitation could be fatal. "The night is alive here," the leader finally said, her voice calm but firm. "The forest watches, learns, and tests. Only those who trust their instincts will survive until dawn." Jaren nodded, swallowing hard. "I'll do my best." The sisters led him to a narrow ravine where the ground shimmered with energy. Faint trails of light danced along the edges, marking paths that shifted unpredictably. Jaren realized this was no ordinary trail. One misstep could trigger traps, alert predators, or even collapse the fragile paths beneath his feet. "Move carefully," the sister on the left whispered. "Every step counts." Jaren inched forward, feeling the vibration of the earth beneath his boots. He noticed subtle signs, small crystal shards pointing in certain directions, faint grooves on the ground suggesting a safer path. Using these clues, he advanced slowly, his muscles tense, every sense alert. From the shadows he heard low growls, creatures moving with speed and purpose. Their eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the violet light. Jaren gripped his staff, ready to defend himself if necessary. The sisters flanked him, silent sentinels, their presence both reassuring and intimidating. Suddenly, a creature leapt from the darkness, a four-legged beast with armored scales and claws like sharpened crystal. Its roar echoed through the ravine. Jaren froze for a moment, then remembered the lessons from the first trials. Observe, anticipate, adapt. He dodged to the side as the creature lunged, using a narrow crystal ledge for leverage. The sisters did not interfere. This was his challenge. Jaren's heart raced as he guided the creature into a trap of fallen branches and glowing vines, blocking its path. It struggled, then retreated into the darkness. "You are learning fast," the leader said, her voice calm, almost approving. "But the forest will test more than your reflexes tonight. It will test your judgment and courage." Jaren pressed, on moving through narrow passages where the glowing vines hung like curtains. Each step required balance and calculation. He noticed faint markings on the trees, scratches, patterns, and glyphs similar to those on the pillars from the previous trial. He realized they were guidance, subtle hints from the sisters or the forest itself, designed to help him navigate safely. Hours passed. The violet glow faded into deep blue as the twin moons rose. Strange sounds echoed through the forest. Chirps, clicks, and low growls, all overlapping. Jaren felt his exhaustion, but he pushed on, knowing stopping could mean being caught by unseen predators. At one point, he stumbled across a narrow bridge of floating crystal fragments, suspended over a chasm. The fragments shifted slightly as he stepped on them. Below, a river of liquid light swirled unpredictably. Jaren's heart pounded. One misstep would mean a fall into the glowing river. He paused, studying the pattern. Each fragment had a subtle vibration, a rhythm. By paying attention, he could predict the next shift. He moved carefully, stepping only when the crystals stabilized. Halfway across, a shadow flickered behind him, a predator moving with silent precision. Jaren held his breath, recalling the sisters' advice, "Trust your instincts." When the predator lunged, he leapt to a fragment slightly behind him, maintaining balance and momentum. The creature missed and vanished into the darkness. Relief washed over him, but he knew this was only one of many dangers. Finally, he reached the far side, collapsing onto solid ground. The sisters waited silently, their presence calm yet commanding. The leader spoke, her voice carrying in the still night. "You have survived the night so far, human. Few have come this far without faltering. But the true test begins in the valley. Ahead." Jaren rose slowly, muscles trembling. "Valley ahead? What kind of test?" "The final night trial," the sister said. "You must cross the valley and reach the circle of stones in the center. There you will face the forest's ultimate challenge. Trust in your mind, your strength, and your courage. You are not alone, but you must act alone." Jaren nodded, determination replacing fear. He had learned much in the forest, the value of observation, strategy, and patience. The challenges had taught him to adapt quickly and think ahead. This trial would test all of those lessons at once. The valley was wide and filled with floating crystal formations, shifting rivers of light, and dense forests. As he stepped forward, Jaren felt the forest's presence more strongly than ever. The air vibrated with energy, the ground hummed beneath his boots, and shadows moved in ways that suggested intelligence. Every instinct screamed alertness. Moved carefully, scanning the surroundings for threats and patterns. From a distance, he saw faint lights flickering among the formations. Creatures prowled, some moving silently, others gliding above the glowing rivers. Jaren reminded himself to stay calm and observant. Panic would be deadly. Suddenly, a low roar echoed from the far side of the valley. Two massive creatures emerged, their glowing eyes fixed on him. They moved in perfect coordination, circling him slowly. Jaren realized they were hunting him, testing his reactions. He took a deep breath, focusing on what he had learned. He observed the terrain. noticing a series of narrow crystal bridges above the river. Using quick thinking, he sprinted toward one, leaping onto the first fragment. The creatures lunged, but he anticipated their movements, adjusting his path carefully. The chase continued for what felt like hours, though the moons had moved across the sky only slightly. Jaren's muscles ached, his breath came in short gasps, but he pressed on. Using every skill he had learned, he led the creatures into traps formed naturally by the forest, fallen crystal pillars, glowing vines, and deep fissures. Finally, he reached the circle of stones in the center of the valley. The stones glowed with energy, pulsing like a heartbeat. Jaren stepped inside cautiously. The sisters appeared from the shadows, their presence reassuring yet stern. "You have arrived," the leader said. "Now the forest's ultimate test awaits. Stand firm, trust yourself. Remember all you have learned." The ground trembled as the circle of stones activated. Holographic images appeared, creating illusions of predators, obstacles, and threats from every direction. The forest itself seemed to challenge him, testing his courage, intellect, and composure simultaneously. Jaren's mind raced. He remembered the lessons from the first two trials. Observe, adapt, think ahead. He analyzed each illusion carefully, distinguishing reality from trickery. With each correct step, the illusion shifted, opening new paths. The forest responded to his understanding, rewarding strategy and courage. Hours passed in the surreal battlefield. Jaren's endurance and mental strength were pushed to the limit, but slowly he reached the final stone at the center of the circle. The illusions vanished, leaving the valley silent and calm once more. The sisters approached, their armor gleaming in the soft light of the twin moons. The leader spoke, her voice carrying a rare note of approval. "You have survived the night. You have demonstrated courage, intellect, and resilience. Few humans could have endured all that you have faced. You are ready to continue learning and to walk among us, not as an intruder, but as one who understands the forest's ways." Jaren exhaled, relief and pride mingling in his chest. He had faced danger, fear, and exhaustion, and survived. The lessons of the warrior sisters had taught him that survival was not just about strength or speed, but about observation, strategy, and courage. As dawn approached, the valley glowed with soft golden light. Jaren looked around, seeing the forest in a new way, not just as a dangerous place, but as a living teacher full of intelligence, power, and mystery. He knew the journey was far from over, but he felt ready for what lay ahead. For the first time, he understood the true meaning of the sisters' challenge. Survival was not merely endurance, it was growth, adaptation, and learning to trust oneself. And with the sisters' guidance, he would face whatever came next with courage. The morning light of GalacticPrime spilled over the valley, illuminating the forest in golden hues. Jaren Malik stretched his aching muscles, still carrying the exhaustion from the night's trials. Every fiber of his body screamed fatigue, but his mind was sharper than ever. The warrior sisters were already waiting at the edge of the plateau, their armor glinting as they moved silently. "The greatest challenge awaits," the leader said, her tone calm but serious. "You have survived the trials of strength, strategy, and courage. Now you will face the ultimate test, one that will require all you have learned." Jaren nodded. He could feel the weight of the forest's energy around him. The trees whispered softly, shadows shifted as if watching, and faint tremors pulsed through the ground. Whatever lay ahead, he knew it would demand everything: strength, intellect, and teamwork. The sisters led him to a massive clearing. In the center, a colossal alien creature emerged from the shadows. Its body was armored with crystalline plates, and energy pulsed along its limbs. It had 6 legs, each ending in claws that could crush stone, and a head with eyes that glowed like molten gold. Its roar shook the forest, sending smaller creatures scattering into the trees. "This is the forest's guardian," the leader said. "It tests all who seek to understand us. You must work together to survive." Jaren's heart pounded. He had faced dangerous creatures before, but this was unlike anything he had seen. The guardian moved with astonishing speed for its size. each step causing the ground to shudder. He took a deep breath, focusing on what he had learned. Observe, anticipate, and adapt. The sisters positioned themselves strategically around the clearing. One moved to the left flank, another to the right, and the leader stood slightly behind, Jaren, her eyes tracking the Guardian's every move. Do not attack recklessly, she warned. Think, act, and trust your instincts. The Guardian charged suddenly, its claws tearing into the ground with explosive force. Jaren dodged to the side, narrowly avoiding being crushed. He noticed the pattern in its movements, a series of lunges followed by a pause. Using this rhythm, he calculated his timing, moving in sync with the creature's attacks. The sisters engaged simultaneously, using precise strikes to slow the Guardian without harming it lethally. Their energy blades slashed through the air, deflecting the creature's strikes and creating openings for Jaren to maneuver. He realized this was not a fight of brute force, but of strategy and coordination. Jaren found a fallen crystal pillar and lifted it, preparing to use it as leverage. He noticed a weak point near the Guardian's left flank, an area where the crystalline plates were thinner, revealing the glowing energy beneath. He signaled the sisters, and they adjusted their positions. On my mark, Jaren whispered. The leader nodded slightly. Ready? Jaren counted silently. 1, 2, 3, and then he rolled forward, striking the Guardian's flank with the crystal pillar. Sparks flew as the energy shield of the creature flared. The sisters struck simultaneously, hitting precise points along its limbs to destabilize it. The Guardian roared, rearing back, but it did not attack recklessly. It adapted, shifting its weight, testing their coordination. Jaren realized the challenge was not only physical, but mental. He needed to anticipate the Guardian's adaptations, predict its reactions, and coordinate perfectly with the sisters. Every misstep could be catastrophic. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Jaren dodged, struck, and adjusted his movements. He noticed patterns in the Guardian's attacks, subtle cues in its breathing and posture. Using this knowledge, he moved with greater confidence, striking the weak points at the perfect moments. The sisters mirrored his strategy, their movements fluid and precise. Together they formed a synchronized unit, combining strength, strategy, and courage. Slowly, the Guardian's movements became less aggressive, more calculated, as if recognizing their skill. Finally, Jaren spotted the opening he had been waiting for. The Guardian paused, preparing for another strike. Using the momentum, he rolled forward, striking the central energy core with the crystal pillar. The sisters followed immediately, delivering precise blows to the Guardian's limbs and sides. The creature let out a final roar, a sound that echoed through the valley, then collapsed gently to the ground. It did not die. Instead, it lay still, acknowledging their victory. The energy around its body dimmed, and the forest seemed to exhale in relief. The leader approached Jaren, placing a hand lightly on his shoulder. You have done well, she said. Not only did you survive, but you demonstrated intelligence, courage, and the ability to work as part of a team. Few could achieve this. Jaren wiped sweat from his brow, still catching his breath. It was incredible. I never imagined I could face something like that and survive. The sister on the left smiled faintly, her voice carrying a note of approval. You did not survive by chance. You observed, adapted, and trusted your instincts. These are the qualities we value most. The sister on the right added, Strength alone cannot defeat what you faced. It was your mind and your courage that carried you. Jaren looked around the clearing at the massive Guardian now resting peacefully, and the sisters standing with quiet pride. He realized the forest was not just testing him, it was teaching him, guiding him to become more than a human scout. The leader gestured to the valley beyond. Your trials are not yet complete, but this challenge shows your potential. The forest has accepted your courage, and we have accepted your skill. You may continue your journey with greater understanding, but do not grow complacent. Greater challenges lie ahead. Jaren nodded. I understand. I want to learn. I want to do better, to become stronger and wiser. The sisters exchanged brief glances, then moved to form a path forward. Jaren followed, feeling a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. Each step through the forest now felt purposeful, as if he were walking not just for survival, but to become part of something larger. As they reached a crystal plateau overlooking the valley, Jaren looked down at the landscape. Rivers of light twisted and turned, creatures moved cautiously in the distance, and the Guardian's massive form rested peacefully. The forest was alive, intelligent, and demanding, but it was also a place of beauty and wisdom. "You have shown what humans can achieve," the leader said. "Do not forget this lesson. Strength, intelligence, courage, and respect for life. These are what will allow you to walk safely and honorably in our world." Jaren nodded, a sense of pride swelling in his chest. He realized that the forest and the warrior sisters were not enemies, but teachers. Every challenge, every danger, had been a lesson in survival, strategy, and understanding. He had grown stronger, not just physically but mentally and spiritually. The sisters led him toward a dense section of the forest, where ancient crystalline structures rose like towers. "Here," the leader said, "you will rest briefly and prepare for the next phase of your journey. You have proven yourself worthy, but the forest always tests those who seek knowledge and strength." Jaren settled among the glowing crystals, feeling a rare moment of calm. The forest hummed softly, the twin moons casting gentle light across the valley. He reflected on everything he had experienced, the trials of strength, the mental puzzles, the nighttime threats, and the great challenge of the Guardian. Each had pushed him to his limits, but he had survived, learned, and grown. The sisters stood silently nearby, their presence a reminder that vigilance was always necessary. Jaren knew that the journey ahead would be even more demanding, but he now had confidence in his abilities and the guidance of the warrior sisters. As he watched the forest shimmer in the early dawn, Jaren made a promise to himself. He would continue to learn, to grow, and to face whatever challenges came next with courage, intelligence, and honor. The forest had tested him, but it had also welcomed him. He was no longer just a human scout. He was a student of the forest, a participant in its lessons, and a survivor of its greatest challenges. And somewhere deep within the crystalline trees, Jaren knew the final trials were waiting. But for the first time, he felt ready to face them. The sun rose slowly over HFY, casting warm golden light across the crystalline forest. Jaren Malik stood at the edge of a wide plateau, overlooking the valley where he had faced the Guardian the day before. The trials had tested him, beyond imagination, yet he felt stronger, sharper, and more aware than ever. Every challenge had taught him lessons he would never forget: courage, observation, strategy, and trust in himself. The warrior sisters appeared silently beside him. Their armor gleamed in the morning light, and their stance radiated calm confidence. For the first time, Jaren felt that he was not just a visitor in their world, but a participant in it, a student who had learned the forest's ways. "You have faced everything the forest could challenge you with," the leader said, her voice calm and commanding. "You have proven your strength, your mind, and your courage. But more importantly, you have shown respect for life and understanding of our ways. This is what truly matters." Jaren bowed his head slightly. I've learned so much. I didn't just survive, I think I understand now." The sister on the left nodded. "Understanding is the key to survival, human. Strength without wisdom is useless. Courage without care leads to destruction. You have balanced all three," the sister on the right smiled faintly. "And you have done so under the watchful eyes of the forest itself. That is no small achievement." Jaren felt a sense of pride but also humility. He knew he was still only beginning to understand HFY, its people, and its forest. Yet the trust and approval of the warrior sisters made him feel accepted, a rare and powerful feeling. The leader gestured toward the valley. "The forest now recognizes you as one who can walk safely within it. We welcome you not just as a survivor, but as an ally. You may now learn more, explore further, and even assist our people if you wish." Jaren's heart raced. An alliance with a civilization as advanced, intelligent, and disciplined as these sisters was beyond anything he had imagined. I would be honored, he said. I want to learn from you, and I want to help wherever I can. The sisters led him down into the valley, walking through the crystalline forest with fluid, silent grace. Jaren followed, his eyes wide at every sight. The glowing rivers, the floating crystal formations, the creatures that moved with intelligence and awareness. Every step he took felt like walking deeper into a living classroom, where every element taught a lesson about life, strength, and wisdom. As they walked, the leader spoke again. Our civilization has existed here for centuries, surviving, learning, and growing with the forest. Humans rarely endure what you have endured. Few have been worthy of walking beside us. Jaren listened intently, absorbing every word. I want to understand more. Your people, your culture, everything. I feel like I've only seen a small part of this world. The sister on the left chuckled softly. And you will see more. Human. But every step must be earned. The forest tests those who enter it, and every lesson builds upon the last. They approached a wide clearing where a village of crystalline structures rose like towers, interwoven with living trees and glowing energy lines. Jaren could see other warriors moving gracefully, training and maintaining harmony with the forest. The scene was both beautiful and awe-inspiring, a civilization in perfect balance with its environment. The leader gestured to the village. This is the heart of our people. You may rest here, learn our ways, and share your knowledge as well. But remember, respect and understanding must guide all your actions. Jaren stepped forward cautiously, feeling a sense of wonder. He had never seen a place like this, an alien civilization so advanced, yet so harmonious with nature. Every structure, every path, every light seemed purposeful, designed not just for survival, but for growth, learning, and unity. As they moved through the village, Jaren noticed a group of younger warriors practicing coordination drills. Their movements were precise yet fluid, a perfect combination of strength and strategy. The sisters watched them, guiding silently, teaching without interfering unnecessarily. You will train with them, the leader said. Your experience has value, and your human perspective may offer insights our people have not yet considered. But remember, the forest always teaches first, guides second, and rewards those who are worthy. Jaren nodded eagerly. I'll do my best. The sister on the right stepped closer. We have one more lesson for you before formal training begins. You must face the forest alone. One last time. This trial is not about strength, not about intellect. It is about understanding. Observe, learn, and trust in everything you have experienced. Jaren felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. He had faced the forest's dangers before, but now it was a test of perception, reflection, and insight. I understand, he said. The sisters guided him to a small plateau overlooking a dense section of the forest. You will spend the day here, the leader said. Watch, observe, and reflect. Do not interfere with the creatures or the plants. Let the forest speak to you, and you will learn more than words can teach. Jaren nodded and stepped forward onto the plateau. The forest stretched endlessly before him, alive with motion and light. He watched as creatures moved through the trees, some hunting, some building, some interacting in complex ways. The rivers shimmered. The wind carried subtle energies, and every sound had meaning. Hours passed. Jaren remained still, absorbing every detail. He began to notice patterns. The way the smaller creatures avoided larger predators, how the rivers shifted to nourish certain plants, how energy flowed through the crystalline formations. The forest was a network of intelligence, alive and responsive, testing not with force but with observation. By late afternoon, Jaren understood something profound. The forest, the sisters, and this civilization were all part of a system that valued knowledge, respect, and balance. Survival alone was not the goal. It was learning, adapting, and contributing. The lessons of courage, strategy, and observation were tools for living harmoniously in a world full of challenges. When the sisters returned, Jaren felt a deep sense of readiness. I think I understand, he said. It's not just about surviving. It's about respecting life, learning from it, and using that knowledge wisely. The leader nodded. Exactly. You have walked the forest, faced its trials, and absorbed its lessons. You are no longer merely a human scout. You are a student, an ally, and a member of this world's broader journey. The sisters guided Jaren back into the village where he was formally welcomed by the other warriors. They nodded in respect, acknowledging his trials and his accomplishments. For the first time, Jaren felt a sense of belonging, an extraordinary feeling after so many days of challenge, uncertainty, and danger. Your journey does not end here, the leader said, but now you have allies, knowledge, and understanding. You may continue to explore, to learn, and to grow. Humanity has much to offer, and now we have reason to believe you can walk beside us as equals. Jaren looked at the sisters and the forest around them. The trials had been difficult, exhausting, and sometimes frightening, but they had also taught him courage, strategy, observation, and respect. He felt ready for the challenges ahead, confident in his skills, and honored to be accepted by a civilization so advanced and wise. I will not forget this, he said. I will continue to learn, to grow, and to honor everything you have taught me. The leader smiled faintly. And we will continue to guide you, as the forest guides all who are willing to listen. Together, we can face whatever comes next. For the strength of unity, courage, and wisdom is far greater than any individual alone. As Jaren looked out over the valley, the forest, and the crystalline village, he felt a sense of awe and purpose. Humanity had faced many challenges, but here, among the warrior sisters and the living forest, he saw the potential for greatness, a vision of what humans could achieve when courage, intelligence, and respect guided their actions. The forest shimmered, alive and aware, but no longer a threat. It had become a teacher, a guide, and a witness to Jaren's growth. The warrior sisters had tested him, challenged him, and accepted him, and in return, he had proven the strength of the human spirit, the ability to adapt, to learn, to persevere, and to rise stronger from every trial. For the first time, Jaren felt a true sense of belonging, and he knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, on GalacticPrime or beyond, he was ready. Not just to survive, but to thrive. Not just to face danger, but to overcome it with courage, wisdom, and unity. And as the twin suns rose fully above the horizon, casting light across the shimmering forest, Jaren Malik stepped forward with purpose, ready to continue his journey, not as a lone scout, but as a member of a greater whole, guided by knowledge, courage, and the enduring spirit of humanity.